Having a chronic condition means you may have to manage it for the rest of your life. Dr. Travis and Dr. Freda Lewis-Hall, the chief medical officer of Pfizer, traveled to Nashville to talk with country music singer Hilary Williams about her journey.
My name's Hilary Williams, and I've lived in Nashville most of my life. When I was 8 years old, I started feeling sick and thirsty and tired all the time. I didn't want to get out of bed, and my mom thought I didn't want to go to school. My aunt noticed that I was rapidly losing weight and thought that there might be something wrong, and she insisted that we go to the doctor. My blood sugar was nearly 800, and the normal range should be 80 to 120, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I was overwhelmed by everything, having to learn how to take shots and take my blood sugar, but my dad let me practice on him so I could see that it didn't hurt. My grandfather and my dad are Hank Williams and Hank Williams Jr., huge country stars, so when I got diagnosed it made the news. And the kids would tease me at school and the boys said I had cooties. I used to be so self-conscious of checking my blood sugar, but now I just don't care. I'll check it at a restaurant, concert, anywhere I'm out in public, and I have no fear. There is a responsibility when you're living with a chronic condition to take care of yourself. At first it may not be easy, but a country girl can survive. I still write music, and I still play music, and I still carry on that family tradition. If you have diabetes, you can still live life to the fullest. I've now realized there's nothing wrong with having diabetes, and it's just a part of who I am.
So Hilary, thank you so much for sitting down and talking about your health. And just to clarify for those watching, with type 1 diabetes, the pancreas produces little or no insulin. That's a hormone that is absolutely necessary to allow glucose to enter cells to produce energy. And Hilary, that's probably why you felt tired so much as a kid. It sounds like over the years you've learned how to manage your diabetes while juggling this music career that you have. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I check my levels and I take my insulin, but unfortunately we can all have lows. And when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, a couple times I fainted.
And you know, diabetes is a really serious chronic condition, and one of the things that many people don't know is that it can be as much of a challenge and as dangerous for people with diabetes if they let their blood glucose get too low. And as in your case, Hilary, sometimes that can lead to faintings, and in other cases to seizures and even a coma.
And treating diabetes with insulin can sometimes overcorrect, causing low blood glucose. Diabetes by itself causes high blood sugar levels. That can be a really serious problem because when those glucose levels rise in the blood, it results in hyperglycemia. If not treated over time, those vessels that supply blood to vital organs, they can become damaged, increasing the risk of stroke, heart, and kidney disease. It can also cause vision and nerve problems, lifelong problems in many cases.
Yeah, and these things don't necessarily or usually happen early, but they can happen later in life. And especially or particularly in people whose blood glucose hasn't really been well controlled. In fact, research tells us that there's a linkage between early, tight blood sugar control and a longer life for people with type 1 diabetes. So speaking of tight control, you are so conscientious in managing your diabetes. Have you always been that way, or is that new?
I haven't. When I was a teenager, I was embarrassed about having diabetes and having to check my blood sugar and take shots. But now that I'm an adult, I'm very great about managing my levels.
And I want to ask you a question because particularly when you're a child or younger, but even as an adult, a lot of times there's a stigma. And people will feel like there's a stigma associated with their illness. Do you have any advice on that?
We're really just like everyone else at the end of the day, and you know, we don't need to be embarrassed.
It is so very important for people with diabetes to be consistent with checking their blood sugar and to also remember to watch carefully what and when they eat and drink. But whether it's diabetes or another chronic illness, one really important thing is making sure that you've gotten together with your healthcare team, that you have a plan that's made just for you, and that you really follow that plan to the letter.
Now, you're a musician. How has music helped you cope?
To me, it's very comforting, and it relieves my anxiety. If you're stressed out one day, just to dance and get your aggression out, music is wonderful.
I can confess that I'm a dancer, but don't ever make me try to sing, because that right there is a no. It's
well, I'm not
just a
singing.
no.
I'm not singing
Okay.
or dancing. I will leave the dancing to you and the singing to both of you.
Okay. So Hilary, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story and your insights. There's something you said earlier that I really want to underscore, and that is for all parents. When your child is telling you that they don't feel well, make sure that you have them checked out by a healthcare professional. This is such an important point that you made earlier. And there's so much to know about managing chronic illnesses. You've shared a lot with us, but of course, for more information, you can go to gethealthystayhealthy.com, and while you're there, sign up for our monthly newsletter. I have had such a grand time in Nashville.
And I want to thank you so much for being here, but Hilary, mainly to you for sharing your story. So great to have you here, and I do have to send this back to the studio. Dr. Orden, it's been great being here. Take it away.
We'll see you soon, Dr. Travis. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.